Hello, welcome to another episode of ISN Talks. We got myself, Nick, and Aura.
What's up?
So, Aura, why don't you go ahead and introduce us to our topic that you picked for us?
Alright, so we've been into K-pop for a while now, and we've seen a lot of generations come and go. So let's talk about that, because I'm pretty sure we all came in at different times and experienced it differently.
Yeah.
So, alright, let's start with when we all got into K-pop.
Okay, Nick, why don't you go ahead and start off with when you got in?
So I got into K-pop around 2012-ish.
Mm-hmm.
That was when that was because of 21.
Okay.
That was kind of 2012 was kind of the start of the, not really the start, but inside of the first US Hallyu wave. And so that's really what got me in. I was in school, a friend showed me 21, and I was pretty much hooked from there. Also at that time I was getting really bored with American music because it was getting kind of bland musically.
Okay.
And so it was nice and refreshing to hear something else that was different.
Alright.
So what about you, Aura?
Okay, so I was around the same time when Girls' Generation or SNSD, Sonyoshide, whatever you want to call them, when they released I Got a Boy, which was around 2012 as well. But for me, I was already into idols for a lot longer than that with AKB48. So I started it with idols themselves, in the idol culture, the whole realm, in 2008, and then got into K-pop around 2012. And it was actually through AKB and SNSD interaction that got me into K-pop. So it wasn't exactly a friend, but it was more of, oh, my idols are interacting with other idols. Let's go check out these other idols out. And now I'm hooked.
Yeah. So for myself, I basically grew up with K-pop. So, with like my aunt, and so a lot of my musical influences were determined by family members, right?
Okay.
So I had an uncle who was really big on like metal and rock, American metal and rock. I had one aunt who was really big on like American hip hop and R&B, especially R&B, soul.
Okay.
So then I have another aunt. She had just emigrated from Korea and joined us, so she naturally was still on Korean music. So it wasn't until like maybe I would say I started listening to like K-pop more regularly, like on my own, where I started like seeking it out right around the time of high school, like in the middle of high school for me.
Okay.
So, because before that, I remember too, there was a time when like, it's in the Asian American community, right?
Mm-hmm.
Korean dramas were becoming like really hugely popular.
Okay.
So, I'd already been watching them on my own. I watch some things with my aunt, and so obviously the music would come up as well. And Korean drama soundtracks are hugely popular, right?
Yeah.
In fact, that like if I recall correctly, the first time like the term Hallyu wave came to be was like originates in China when K-pop dramas, and then K-pop became like really big in China, and then that's where they started coining the term Hallyu wave, right? So like for me, I would say it was right around like the middle of high school for me, and I didn't get to becoming like fully what's it called, where basically K-pop became like my main genre until probably like around 2012, 2013.
Okay.
So because like for the exact same reason as Nick, because American pop is starting to get really bland.
So it feels like 2012 is like the biggest turnaround for all of us, to be honest. Because that's around the date that I find all of us being most similar. Where you started, well, I'm going to point up here because this is where you're always positioned. Where you are always getting into it, and then Nick is somewhere around here or here against me. So Nick just started switching thanks to his friend, and then I just switched around. Well, I'm still into J-pop, but I started getting really into it, and switching between K-pop and J-pop around 2012, and I feel like that's around when second gen started becoming more popular.
Yeah, 2012 was about the transition year for our second gen, as they were starting to get ready to lead into the third gen, which I'm going to refer back to DRDB, his channel, because he did a really good like kind of a dissertation on like the generations of K-pop, and I for the most part I agree with his dissertation because they're very logical, and I think it was right around 2012 was the tail end of Gen 2, and when Gen 3 started to start up was what he said, I believe. So
it was like the beginning of the 2.5 era where it wasn't exact. The biggest groups that make up Gen 3 were either not established yet, or they were just starting to kind of find the next big groups, is kind of how I felt. Because
that really was right around the time when with the way he described like the generations and like the sub generations within each. Like one of the defining features of like the third generation is social media,
right?
Because in second gen, second gen you had 21, Girls' Generation, Big Bang, they were on social media platforms. But with like third gen is when they were really like starting to like leverage that for community interaction with their fans, right? And fans were really like starting to like kind of I guess gather around all in on social media,
right?
Because I mean, Nick, you're always referring back to Stan Twitter, right? And that's one of the defining features of the third gen, and like that's a big part of why BTS is so legendarily big.
So I was accidentally introduced to K-pop before I started listening to K-pop. Mostly because because my friend introduced me to Boa, but he showed me one of her Japanese songs. So for the longest time, I thought she was a Japanese artist. I'm like, alright, cool. She's a like really cool, like she's got a really nice Japanese voice. And then down the line, around I want to say mid 2012, when I started getting into it, I'm like, hold on. So you're telling me for these last 5, maybe 6 years, Boa is not a Japanese artist since I've known her about her.
And so like within the Asian American community, prior to now, like I would say like maybe 2 or 3 decades ago, Japanese culture was like the predominant like culture, right, that people follow. And then like was it again like with the K-dramas were starting to kind of like lead that shift towards Korean culture, as becoming also like another big thing that Asian Americans would follow.
I mean, because anime used to be the biggest thing. Don't get me wrong, I've still got a lot of anime I still watch. And
even before that, like so like if you go even further back to like the 70s and the 80s, Japanese what's it called, like samurai films.
Yeah,
right.
Or even the tokusatsu, like Gentleman.
So like that was like one of the big things for I guess things that push like Japanese culture. And so like for K-pop, they used a lot of the tie-in comes from anime.
Yeah.
Because a lot of especially because of BoA. So BoA was like one of the top stars, right, of like the second gen of K-pop.
Yeah.
And she was what led the way for K-pop breaking out into the Japanese market, which is the world's second largest music market.
Okay. Yeah.
So
okay. I guess my biggest question now is, what was the who were the first artists that you actually listened to? I just said mine was BoA, technically, and then SNSD. If it was when they got me officially in.
I don't remember because, like I said, at first, right, as like when I first got exposed to K-pop, I was just a kid, so I wasn't really paying attention to who's who and what's what, and especially like even from like everything else that that I was ever exposed to, like especially like with rock and metal, hip hop. You're a kid, you don't really care, right? Unless you get super into something. Like I know there are like 5-year-olds who get into like BTS and can name off all the members and whatever, right?
Yeah.
I know they exist. I wasn't one of those kids.
Okay. What about you, Nick?
Well, 21 definitely was my first before I fell into the rabbit hole. And then actually when I did, it's funny. So when I did, I actually jumped back a generation.
Okay.
And that's when I went into like Finkel, HOT.
Oh wow.
I jumped way back.
Okay.
And that's because when I get into music, like when I really like learn about a new generation, I start from the beginning because I want to see how it's evolved.
Yeah.
Like
okay.
That's like, it's like it lets me understand more about why this thing is a certain way. It's just like when you learn about history. You don't start in the middle of history, right? You have to start at the beginning and you have to work your way to present day because it builds on itself.
So it's kind of like when people get into like certain fiction, like what was it, like Game of Thrones, I guess. Some people like will want to start from the very beginning.
Yeah, it's like it's the best way I can equate it is imagine like starting the Harry Potter books in like book 3. Like it wouldn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And so it's very much the same for me, right? Because I need to start at the very beginning so I can understand things. And I mean, I'm sure I didn't understand everything completely because at that point I still had like a very basic knowledge of music. I mean, I was 2012, I was 14 at the time. So I mean, I didn't understand everything fully, but I understood enough to know that I needed to work my way through because it is history. Right.
Yeah, and then there's also like the cultural aspect as well.
Yeah, of course. And that's especially true because I was diving into a culture I didn't know anything about Korean culture. I didn't know anything about Korea. I just was like, I like this music. Right. So it helps me understand a little bit. I mean, so I was listening to like HOT, Finkel. I was still listening to modern day, or at the time modern day music. But so like I would be listening to like Crayon Pop, Yeah. I'd be listening to AOA, BAP was a big one for me. Okay. But yeah, other than that, I think a lot of it was seriously just like that kind of first gen, almost pre-first gen music.
So you actually almost know more about first gen than I do at that point. So.
I mean, I would say if it was like talking today about first gen, you probably know more because you're very statistically minded, a lot more than I am. And so you would probably know more, but my knowledge of the quantity of music kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I guess my knowledge of the actual music is quite a fair amount. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I feel like not gonna lie, I kind of feel like you called me out, Nick, just by saying you just don't start in the middle. I started in the.
I mean, a lot of people start music in
Yeah.
the middle.
Yeah.
But
It's a pretty easy thing to do because, you know, music, like, as we go, music is writing history, right? It's saying like, oh, these songs were popular. American music does it too, with the rise and fall of the rock generation, with the rise and fall of rap.
I mean, I feel like you also called me out with that whole Harry Potter thing because I started on the last movie, the very.
All right, you just don't do that.
I mean, there's also practical elements too, because I mean, you're talking about diving back, to previous decades, and that's a lot to catch up on.
Yeah, it took me forever to listen to the music and catch up, and figure out where. I think literally, like, I used to be listening to 70s, 80s rock. That was all I listened to.
Which is a really awesome period for rock.
Oh, it was.
It is, but I grew up on it, and I had been listening to it for 14 years.
Yeah.
So I was getting kind of tired of it.
Yeah, because even though
I mean,
that's
it's
like
fine.
two decades worth,
Like,
but
yeah, it lasts 2 decades worth, and that's cool.
Right.
But you can only listen to the same kind of songs so long,
Yeah.
and then it gets really boring.
yeah,
I feel that.
But yeah, so like, I was, I mean, it took me, I think I was listening to literally K-pop for 6 months, 7 months, maybe. That was literally just like listening on my way to school, like listening at like my lunch break,
yeah.
and then coming home and listening to music.
Okay.
Like, and that's because like when I get invested in music, like, that's like how I get invested. Like all of my free time goes towards that.
I'm similar to that. I've been told that like I'm almost obsessive, and not just with music, right? It's whenever I pick up any kind of new hobby or any kind of new interest, like I go full ham on it, and like that's like the only thing I do. Like, so you guys know I love cooking, right?
Yeah.
When I'm like experimenting with a new dish, and it doesn't turn out like how I wanted it the first time around, you better believe I'm gonna be cooking that for the next few days to perfect it.
Story of my life, seriously.
Yeah.
Like I've been thinking
Obsessive.
about getting into a new hobby, and my parents are like, can you wait until after
You're
all the
done with this
situation
one?
is done?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But like also, can it not cost a lot of money?
Yeah.
And of course, the stuff I want to get into always costs a lot of money.
Yeah.
Because like,
because I had a
so
period with
it's a mess.
motorcycles. I had a period with cars.
I'm still in that period. I'm gonna be honest.
It's expensive. It is expensive. Well, I mean, so at least with motorcycles, it can be a little bit cheaper. So, but
It can be. It seriously can be. But like right now I'm getting into like building mechanical keyboards. Like starting from the PCB and going from there, soldering, doing the whole 9 yards. And like the kits alone can cost like $400.
yeah. So
And that's not even going to give you the switches or anything. So it's like it's a mess.
And then like with K-pop, I mean, like we find artists and albums that we love, right? And then all of a sudden now you go from not even owning an album to like an entire like tall shelf of albums. So
Okay, so should we talk about Nick's situation about when after he met us and falling into that rabbit hole?
I don't know what you're talking about, man.
You guys' fault.
I have no idea what you're talking about. We are absolutely positive influences in all the lives that we touch.
Okay, so
they are positive influences, but that might be because at this point I'm corrupted.
yay.
Basically, when I joined ISN, it was February last year. I had probably 4 albums, and actually I literally had 4 albums and a photo book to my name. February last year, by the way.
Yeah.
So what these guys were like is they were like, oh yeah, like, get albums. Like, albums are a great way to like show your love for a group. You can listen to the CDs. It's higher quality. I was like, okay, that's cool. I was like, so just get like 1 or 2. And they were like, oh, but you can't forget this album and this album and this album and this album. And I was like,
that was 3 people, not just us, not just the 2 of us. It was Jihoon, me, and Bang. Okay.
Yeah, back when. Yeah.
And then like
so.
It probably didn't help too that like we'd always be posting like our latest hauls. Like, hey, check out what I just got. Hey, check out what
And
I
on
just
top
got.
of that, Yes Asia always has sales.
Oh, yeah.
Like they always have sales.
I
And
think
so-
when
and
you
so
joined,
at the time that
you joined,
they were having a sale.
what?
Oh my god,
It was a 75% off sale. Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, and so I was like, okay, well, I'll get a few albums, and I was in a call with them, and I think I was screen sharing.
Oh
And
my
they're
god,
like,
yeah, I remember that.
But they were like, yeah, but don't forget that album and that album. And, that. And by the end of it, I did a $700 haul. $700.
Like,
And the problem, like, if I had stopped there, it wouldn't have been that much of a problem.
yeah, you almost spent half of what I spent in the
I didn't
previous
stop. I like literally, I didn't stop.
year.
And I mean, it's not as serious like it's hurting my financials or anything.
Yeah.
I won't let it
Yeah.
go that far,
Yeah.
but it's a problem.
And
Like this is what happens when I get into a hobby.
and like even for myself, like I actually set aside a part of my monthly budget for Kpop albums
Oh yeah.
as well.
Same here.
So like so by the end of the year, I would have had like $1,500
Yeah.
budgeted towards
Yeah.
albums and merch and whatnot.
I mean, provided I get into building mechanical keyboards, I won't have any money anyway. So
I mean, for me, I do set apart like money for bills, money for all of that, and then like extra money if I need like backup,
Yeah.
and then anything else is going to be for my hobbies. And unfortunately, right now it's K-pop. Unfortunately, fortunate enough, it's K-pop.
yeah. At least I haven't started on the light stick grind yet.
Oh my god.
I only have one,
And,
so
and especially like when you talk about like certain groups, like they have like multiple generations of light sticks.
Oh yeah.
yeah, like twice or whatever.
Yeah.
Twice is
Oh my
on their
God, yeah.
second light stick right now.
Which group was it that had like
I think-
5 generations of light sticks? Was it Big Bang? I can't remember.
I don't know. I think EXO's on their third,
I
Yeah.
don't know.
but like there are some people that instead of buying albums, they buy light sticks. So when I was at KCON LA,
Yeah, dude.
I went to the ISN fan
Right.
meeting, and there was a guy that bought two sets of every single light stick for each member. Because keep in mind, there's 12 light sticks
Yeah.
in the full set, but he bought 2 sets,
Yeah.
and he literally came with a belt of light sticks. And people were like, how much did that cost you? He's like, well, the total thing cost me like, I don't remember the number he said now, but it was a boatload of money. And he was like, yeah, this is my traveling set. I was like, your traveling set?
Oh,
So apparently he has a set like sitting on his wall,
yeah.
but he has a set that he takes with him. Like, that's mad.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so fascinating how if we're looking through the generations of fans and whatnot, they're very similar, but they're also very different at the same time. Like, I think from at least, so you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but like I feel like the very first generation of K-pop was mainly just in Korea, like heavily, with maybe a little bit of influence to China and bleeding a little bit into Japan, but it was heavily condensed into Korea.
Yes.
Yeah, it's very much almost a Korean exclusive fandom.
And then
and like, well, also into like the overseas Koreans. So like, you know, with my family, right? You know,
the Korean Americans
community,
and then
and that's where a lot of other people were also starting to get introduced into K-pop as well, because like you do have non-Korean Americans who were already being introduced to K-pop since the first generation by proxy of their Korean friends.
And then like second generation was when it started getting popular in Japan and China, and then it started bleeding a little bit more into America, because
they tried. They really tried.
Like I wouldn't say they fully like infiltrated the like market, but like you could see it starting to bleed more with BoA. You saw you saw SNSD on late night, and then obviously Psy. He blew
so
up.
It was 21,
Yeah.
Girls' Generation, Boa.
Yeah, because
there was like 7. He was another one.
yeah, they started the first U.S. Hallyu wave.
Yeah, because Psy. It wasn't until Psy, and even Wonder Girls too. Wonder Girls tried.
Yeah, Wonder Girls did try.
So that was like around 2008 or 2008 to 2010 was when they were trying to, but it wasn't until Psy that when he went viral that they actually started that first Hallyu wave in America.
Right.
So,
And it's so fascinating seeing them do, like, even reaching this far without, like, very much social media at the time.
Yeah, because at the time, because Twitter started, 2013, 2012?
12, 13? Maybe
11?
Yeah.
Maybe 11.
But Twitter wasn't really, like, a solid thing yet.
Yeah.
And even YouTube was still, like, fairly, like, getting established.
Yeah, so I'm going...
Yeah, so YouTube was still even in 2011, YouTube was still a pretty niche market.
Yeah.
I mean, you saw a couple MVs, but it wasn't like it is now.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to date myself because Myspace at the time... for like 2008 was where I heard a couple of K-pop songs from Boa.
MySpace was the boomers Facebook, like the boomers.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
No, the boomers use AOL.
they use AOL with MySpace. And I'm just like, oh my god, dude, like. Wow.
Well, like MySpace, you could customize your like homepage or whatever. You put in like sound bars and whatever. Do it your own HTMLs, and that's like when you visit someone. Oops, if this is my mic. When you visit a page, you sometimes just automatically hear music, and
yeah. Because people could add music to their
and
their page.
Was it American music artists, especially of that era? If you're an American music artist, you would have your own MySpace music artist page,
and you'd have everyone you know have your song on their page to hopefully get exposure. Because SoundCloud wasn't a thing. I don't believe.
No, I don't
if
think
it was, it wasn't highly used.
And didn't Wonder Girls on a Nickelodeon cartoon? No, not cartoon, but commercial.
I don't know. I know.
I don't know. I knew 21 was everywhere.
Yeah, 21. They had a Microsoft commercial.
Did they?
Yeah, they were.
Yeah.
Well, they weren't. The artists themselves weren't in the commercial, but their song.
Their
was.
song was.
Oh, was it?
Yeah. Which song was that?
I'm the best.
Yeah.
That was like one of their I guess kind of like mini breakouts songs in the U.S. market.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And then I remember seeing SNSD win a YouTube Music Award. Like, when YouTube did that one award that was supposed to be a yearly thing. Like...
Wow.
What a catastrophe.
I totally missed that one.
Yeah. So, for those who don't know the context, YouTube...
For those who weren't born yet.
It was 2012, dude. It was 2012, 2013. YouTube held an award show that was supposed to end up to be a yearly thing, but it only happened that 1 year.
Yeah, it was only 1 year.
And unfortunately, not all of the members of SNSD could attend. Only Tiffany did.
Oh.
Yeah.
I remember seeing that in the news. Yeah,
She was.
I think it was they had on Soupy.
Yeah, she was like, "YouTube is my best friend. Love YouTube and all that."
Speaking of Soupy, I also just remembered at that time, Soupy wasn't even like the site it is today.
No.
So at that I think at that time, Soupy was still like a community forum.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now look at it, dude.
Yeah, now it's like a legit news site.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now it's an actual news company.
I mean, the forum's still there.
Mm-hmm.
I actually just looked at it maybe a month ago, just to see like, hey, is the community still there?
Yeah.
What's crazy is the company restrictions back then too.
Oh yeah.
Companies were so much more restrictive back then about like what idols could get away
Right.
with.
Yeah.
especially they were also a lot more strict with how the idols conducted themselves on camera.
On camera, out in public. So.
Oh yeah, it was. You had to be basically working 24/7. Like, your personality became like an idol personality.
Because, like, they were almost way too perfect. Acted way too perfect as human beings.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that stems from the prejudice that was against idols at the time. Because a lot of people at the time saw the idol career as a like a you don't have anything else you could do career path.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Like, I'm sure Jihoon remembers that, especially it happened a lot in later ends of Gen 1 too.
Yeah.
It was like,
my
parents
God.
would literally tell their kids, do anything else.
Yeah.
Like, become a trash man, do anything else, just don't be an idol.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
you do see a few idols from that generation like extremely successful now, like LiQWYD, Kim Jong-kook, yeah. And then with second generation, a lot more of them now that were pretty big in second generation have remained fairly successul.
so what I do see too is a lot more of the second gen members going on to found their own companies.
Right.
So
Right.
Yeah.
So second gen members are having a lot bigger hand in shaping the industry at large compared to like first gen.
Yeah. And now with like third generation, I feel like, because I also see a lot of idol influence from the Japanese culture that kind of molded and changed the third generation. Because when I was watching Japanese idols, they were a lot more heavily like they were really close to their fans. You know, they heavily interact with their fans. I mean, very much in a safe environment as much as possible.
Right.
Like with handshake events, with fan meets, and all of that. I rarely, at least in second generation, I rarely saw any of that. There might be a small fan meet, a concert here and there, but
I do remember JYP talking about that too when he was kind of pitching his the Ninty Project concept. Like remember last year when he had that kind of conference.
right,
Yeah, he talked a lot about that. Yeah.
yeah,
Also something that I've noticed change a lot through the generations is the inclusion of foreign members
right,
in groups.
Yeah, because it.
Like in Gen 2, Gen 3, like you would see the occasional, like early Gen 3, you'd see the occasional, like Korean American,
right,
Yeah.
or you would see the occasional foreigner. You'd see the occasional Japanese or something along those lines.
Yeah.
But now it seems that everything is like every group that is coming out has at least one.
Yeah.
like a Thai member.
Even some groups like for example, even some groups are half or more
Yeah.
like partially foreign. So like a great example is Blackpink, right? Because Lisa's Thai, and then both
Rose.
Rose and Jennie have lived overseas.
Yeah.
And so Jisoo is the only one that has actually been in Korea the entire time.
And I mean, it started having it wasn't like a full-on, but they did do a lot, at least in the second generation. They had maybe one Thai member, maybe a Japanese, or even just a Korean American, but it was still far and few in between.
Yeah, and it's not to say that it never existed before that too.
Right.
Because
No, yeah, it definitely existed. I just noticed that the frequency
it's
has gone.
exactly it's
It's
a lot more
skyrocketed.
frequent now. Because what was it? You could call them like the very first girl group of Korea, like what do you call the He Sisters? I think it was. From like the 60s, like the late 60s. Insuni, you guys remember we had one of our music videos in our in an episode a few months back. She's half black, half Korean.
Right.
And yeah, like she was one of the people who kind of helped make those inroads for mixed race Koreans, especially,
Right.
and the inclusion of full on like foreign members.
Yeah.
She really struggled through a lot too, even as all the way through like the 80s and whatnot.
Yeah.
So
And then if we're looking at foreign like groups that have a lot of foreign members, Z-Girls, Z-Boys, they're a really good example.
yep, they're all entirely foreign based.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and there was that other project group that the goal was only to release one MV, but they were all foreigners as
Right.
well. I don't remember the name.
what about was it Expedition?
No, it was.
Oh, E-Expedition is a full other thing.
Yeah.
He's talking about the
but
one with Chiba Eddie in the group.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I don't remember their name.
I don't either.
This is gonna haunt me, and I'm not gonna remember it
Yeah.
until after the recording.
Yeah.
Oh,
he's
dude. Just look up Chiba Eddie. You'll find it.
But yeah, so there was that group. E-Expedition is kind of different because they weren't produced by an actual company.
Yeah, didn't they form
were...
the company themselves or whatever?
No, they were indie.
Oh, were they? Okay.
Yeah, they never got signed, I don't believe.
UHSN.
UHSN, yep. So UHSN was fully foreign as well, but that was actually company produced through a show as well, through a survival show.
Because they also had like Russian member,
Right.
like a Finnish member. It was pretty cool.
Yes. So, and that was super cool. And yeah, E-Expedition was a full other thing, because they weren't company produced, but they were all foreign as well.
So,
and they were well received by the Korean media. So
you were saying
that's another thing that I've seen change over the years as well, is international like K-pop fans have become a lot harsher of international idols. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if you are from like the Korean media, like if you come in and you are good, the Korean media will respect you.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter, like a lot of it doesn't matter on your race. A lot of it doesn't matter on like anything. It just matters on how good you are.
Yeah, because
how well you fit into the group.
The novelty of being foreign can only last so long.
Yeah.
You still got to be good.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
but like I feel like international fans are a lot harsher on idols from other places. Like Expedition, for example, was well received by the Korean media. They were like, "Yeah, you're okay."
Yeah.
But like international fans attacked that group.
Like, oh, this is not K-pop.
Yeah, they were like, "This is Eurodance."
Yeah.
You're like Eurodance pop.
You said the same thing too about like Z-Boys and Z-Girls.
Yeah, and on top of that, even UHSN got slammed by the international fan. They were produced by a Korean company. Like, there's no way.
And that's not to say all international fans were like that, and it's also not to say that all Korean fans were accepting either.
No, just the general overall response.
It's what I guess what it could be perceived as. Because oh, goodness. So I guess one thing I would say too is the cyclical nature of musical concepts, I would say, because we see a lot of concepts kind of make their way through again and again and again, because so early on in Gen 1, first off with Gen 1, it started off with like a hip-hop influence, right? But then like very quickly they shifted over to like a lot of like electro techno influence, where basically it was more like it was more based off techno rather than infusing techno. And then you see that come and go where was it like around 2012 and 2013 you saw like a lot more electronic influence in the K-pop space.
And
then even like was it the past couple years you started kind of seeing that 2018 EDM. like it happened again. So
Yeah.
Yeah, and now we're seeing a little like mini revival of Soul,
funk.
which died out for quite a while and
Yeah.
kind of remained in the underground.
Yeah.
And see, that's the thing that I find different about like K-pop regarding American pop is American pop usually when a majority sound takes hold, it stays for a couple years up to a decade, like, or 2 decades.
Yeah.
Like look at rap in its current state, right?
Yeah, where basically rap became pop, like all pop.
Yeah,
Yeah, you hear
like,
on a pop station was hip hop and rap.
Yeah, and so like rap's taking hold, and rap is even more popular than classic rock now.
Right.
It's so crazy. Yeah.
So like, as far as that goes, like, so it's become the dominant thing. The difference is that we don't know how long rap's gonna last. It could take like a classic rock path and last for 2 decades.
Right.
The difference with K-pop is if you don't like the current state that K-pop is in, come back like 2 years. I guarantee you it'll be different.
Or even 6 months, because like,
yeah,
because K-pop itself, like one of the defining features of K-pop in this generation and like the second generation especially, we even saw it in the first generation, is the infusion of various different genres within the same song.
Also with current day K-pop being super seasonal.
Yeah.
Like when a certain sound took hold back in like Gen 2, we ran with it. Like you milk that thing until it was dry. Just like how we did with Girl Crush.
Yeah. Bro,
but
that Girl Crush trend, that felt like it lasted like forever too.
Oh, it definitely did.
But at least within the realm of K-pop.
Within the realm of K-pop, yeah, it definitely lasted. Like, people definitely milked that thing till it was dry.
Yeah.
I mean, like, something that I've noticed idols say often is like they want to try different concepts. You know, they're more open to trying different styles. Like, I think it was Mi Yun from G Idol. She wants to try a cute concept with the group.
Which is like the first time I've heard a female member say that.
Right?
Yeah, like that is super not like what female members say.
Yeah,
for groups.
in fact, like did you say too, like YG has like a whole influx of like female trainees because they don't want to do a cute concept.
Yeah, that's like the whole thing about like YG is they always have an influx of female members because they don't want to do cutesy concepts. I'm sure like places like Woolim are kind of hurting for female trainees right now.
Because you know what Woolim has been.
Because what Woolim's going to produce.
Yeah.
They're going to produce a female group, and it's going to sound exactly like
the same Woolim sound that they've had for like 7
kind
years.
of like every other group.
I mean, like if like again, I've been around the idol thing a long time too, and I feel like the cute concept too is something that a lot of Japanese fans are a fan of, because of the cute culture.
Definitely.
So,
well, it's not even just Japanese fans. Like cute is a part of modern day Japanese culture.
Yeah.
Like you go when you walk around Japan, you go to like the grocery store even, everything's cute.
Oh yeah, I remember seeing a construction sign of a cute with a cute chibi animal guy.
Yeah. Their construction signs are so cute. Like the little things that they used to block off people from walking into the construction zone. Like they'll have like, you know, a caricature of a crab, and like or you know, pandas or whatever. Like everything's cute.
Yeah.
So cute is a part of Japanese culture.
And I think that's why a few Japanese like members of Korean groups usually fall into that cute category.
Because it's just naturally a part of their culture.
Exactly.
It's been ingrained into them.
Take Sana, for example, from Twice. She is absolutely adorable. Like
she don't even have to try.
Exactly.
But I mean, so I mean, as far as that goes, the culture bleed in K-pop definitely can show.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And they're not afraid to incorporate and try new things.
Yeah.
They do it all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. So like as far as that goes, that's fine. I've also noticed we now see a lot more positional changes inside of K-pop as well for groups. So like groups are now not afraid to put their lead vocalist on a high note.
Right. If they got the skill
Why?
for it, go
Like,
for it. Right.
100% before that, if you're main vocalist, you're high notes, you're ad libs. That is what you're dealing with.
Yep.
Like, why? Because you're main vocalist. That's why. Oh, it's too high for you? Oh, that's too bad. Like, but now it's like, a great example is G-Friend, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because Eunha can deal with those high notes. She has the vocal range for it. Even though Yuju also can, sometimes it's better for Eunha to, because Eunha also
With that wispiness
has a
of the
lighter
voice.
voice. Yeah, she has a lighter voice, and also a higher tone,
Which is
where you
smarter
just tone is
anyways.
really deep.
It gives you more
It is.
musical flexibility.
And I've noticed now other groups will do like a 2-part. They'll have basically their lead vocalist take over the high note, so that their main vocalist can go sing the chorus.
Yeah.
Like, so basically do a 2-part high note almost. And they can supplement that with another drop or a bass hit or something to kind of outweigh the change. But I think K-pop definitely is, as a whole, has become a lot more flexible with what you can do.
Yeah.
I mean,
You know, before it was very like cut and dry.
I mean, like, to go about that flexibility, like, you're seeing a lot of times where groups have either the leader not even be the oldest member anymore. You know, a lot of times it was the oldest member, at least from what I could tell.
No, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, that was almost a base standard.
Yeah, but now
like if you were oldest member, you were expected to be.
Maybe the middle-aged member, or even
or
no
even,
leader.
like, the youngest member.
Yeah.
I remember. So there's a upcoming girl group, or they may have already debuted, but I can't remember who it was. They like when I saw the listing of the members, and like who the leader was. Like the leader was 15 years old, and they have like 18 and 17-year-old members, and like I think one that was like about to be 19 or something. I'm like, wow, you're gonna make the 15-year-old the leader? Like that's cool. I mean, she's got the leadership for it. Go for it, you know.
I mean, there's a lot of older members that are fairly shy and don't want to lead.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But like, I think a lot of that also is like, there a lot of younger members are more built to lead, but back in second generation or first gen, it would be seen as regardless of their actual ability, they'd be seen as too immature.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They'd be seen as too incapable.
It was much more rigid with
like,
that line of thinking. Yeah.
I think a lot of that also now stems from the fact that managers are a lot more than just managers now. Like, what I mean is they will step in to help the group. They will step in to do whatever they can, like outside of creating music and stuff that they're not qualified for. But they will do whatever they in their possibility to help members. Like I remember back in second gen, there was a scandal. I can't remember who it was for, but there was a scandal because the manager visited an idol's house. A female idol's house. It was a male manager. That's not a problem. Like, the manager could be helping them stress relief. The manager could be helping them, you know, if they hurt themselves. It could be a lot of multitude of like things. But because it wasn't a thing for managers to do back then. Now a male manager steps into a female idol's house. It's like, all right, what's new?
Yeah. And you know, a lot of what you're seeing with that too, it comes back to the progress of Korean society, because what a lot of people don't realize is that it wasn't up until the early 90s that South Korea fully became like open and free. Because prior to that, South Korea was still technically a dictatorship. So under dictatorships, you don't get, you know, like you have like martial law, suppression of creative freedom, because you know this. Everyone's just focusing on surviving, right? And the government's just focusing on staying in power. Well, when South Korea finally became like a true democracy in the early 90s, you know, everybody started having all this freedom, right, for running their business, running their lives. So when that happens, creative freedom also comes up. So you know, you think of like how American society is today, right? With how much freedoms and liberties people enjoy. You know, you gotta remember too, like a lot of that what we enjoy today had been suppressed and had to be built upon from like the 50s and the 60s and the 70s, right? Because you had women's rights movements, you had the black rights movements, right?
Right.
And
Yep.
so imagine that, like all those liberties that and whatnot that we built upon from the past 70 years, compressed into like a 15-year time span in South Korea, and that's basically what's been happening.
Right. I mean,
So that's why we see like a huge cultural shift in second generation.
I mean,
Yep.
like going off the creative changes too. Like you're seeing more and more artists making their own music too, for either themselves or for their groups.
Yep.
Like
Yeah, because and that was kind of something that I also want to talk about too before, as like another separate topic discussion, is like kind of like that difference between an idol versus like your traditional musical artist.
and we could probably
Because-
go in out like a longer time than we have left to talk about that.
Exactly. So that's why like I wanted to say that for like that was another topic that I actually wanted to put into for like our list of topics.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, because like we are seeing more idols become, or like you said, writing their own music, getting more involved in their artistry.
Yep.
So like it's kind of, and you're also seeing like indie artists or non-idol artists also stretching to like the idol realm, because like look at Bowl 4. You remember back when they used to be like indie artists and not like idols, like
You mean Ball for the soloist?
Bowl 4 the soloists now, but back when they were a duo.
Back when they were a duet.
no.
Because like last year, right, when Jiyoung, she appeared on Idol Room with a bunch of other idols, like I was just blown away. I'm like,
She was
Wow.
adorable on that episode.
Yeah, there was a show as well where Han Dong-gun was on a show with like Akmu and EXID's Honey and a bunch of other PO, a bunch of other idols. And yeah, so I've definitely noticed that as well, that like other artists, regardless if they're idols or not, are being included.
Yep.
And I mean, Han Dong-gun is a soloist. He is produced by a company. He is an idol, sort of. Soloists are a hard thing to really talk about if they are idols or not.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because they have a lot more creative freedom than a typical idol group does.
So,
But so like yeah, when he was on that show, I was like, wow, like, it's like I'm glad that like soloists are definitely getting a lot more exposure from shows as well.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, because like the traditional music artist route, it is kind of limiting,
Right.
because you're hurting to kind of build that brand reputation, get that exposure.
Yeah.
And one of the best ways to do
Yeah.
that is to be active out in other media.
So
Yep. 100%.
looking at the time now, guys, before we go off into more tangents, is there any last things you want to say about how K-pop has changed throughout the eras for you?
So for me, it's really, I guess, because like I'm now basically all in on K-pop as like my sole genre that I listen to now, basically.
I'd say yeah, you're all in.
Because even before like I fully transitioned over, like I was already exploring like other pop realms. Like I had like a small little
Right.
time where I got into like British pop for a bit. That only lasted like maybe 6 months.
Yeah,
You know.
I can understand that.
Yeah. So, and that's not to say that I'm totally closed off to everything else. So like I still dabble into some J-pop. I still have intentions of exploring other
Right.
countries pop. The Philippines, Indonesia, Russia. Whatever all they have. I've been meaning to.
Yeah.
Just whenever I find the time for it.
Yeah.
So.
What about you, Nick?
Well, definitely. I think the biggest change is definitely how like less strict everything's become. It's nice to see idols. A lot of people are seeing idols as artists now, rather than just like that career that nobody wants to go into.
And also having more creative freedom.
So
Yeah.
yeah, they have more creative freedom. You're seeing a lot more. Like it feels like it's more important now than ever to actually stay in a group, because it's not like you're just standing a group that's like 1 out of 50. You're standing a group that's 1 out of like thousands, and on top of that, like they're all different in their own ways.
Yeah. I mean, not only that, but with international fans, I feel like you're seeing more and more people like of different ranges, ages, and whatnot, you're also seeing people being more open about it. Because I know that, well, before K-pop, I was embarrassed about standing idols, but after a little while with AKB, I became more open about it. And then by the time I hit K-pop, I was really open about it. I was like, oh yeah, I love this stuff. And then I know that I've talked to you, Nick, about like, there was a time that you were a little bit shy about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, there definitely was a time, especially so like when I had primarily Asian American friends that talked about it. It was pretty simple for them.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
You're the Asian American guy that stands in Asian group. Like, all right, it makes sense, you know. For me, it's a bit different, right? And so it's harder for people to understand like why I like this Asian group that I have seemingly no connection to, you know.
Right.
And luckily, I have an easy out with music, you know, because music is such an integral part of my life. And I mean, I've heard both good and bad stories of people literally, for lack of a better term, coming out that they like K-pop. And it's sad that it has to be referred to that way.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's just a music genre you like whatever you like. But the second that they learn that people literally don't care, then they're fine, you know? And I think that was like a big thing for me as well. Is like, I had to learn that like literally my friends did not care what I listened to so long as they don't have to listen to it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, my friends do have...
We have common genres.
My friends have to listen to it from time to time.
You know, and the one thing I noticed too is
I mean,
the people who do care are usually the toxic people anyways.
Yeah, they really are. Like...
So.
It's and so as far as that goes, I mean, I've heard definitely good and bad, but like,
but you're starting to hear more good
was
than bad nowadays.
You are. A lot of people like they're like, hey, I like K-pop, and their friends are just like, cool.
Yeah.
Like, can we go back to gaming now? Okay, thanks.
Can we go back? Can we go back to watching Game of Thrones now, please?
Yeah. Right on. No, I think that's a good case to end it on.
Alright.
Right?
So yeah. Thank you for watching, guys. For this episode. Share your stories, because we'd actually love to read or hear like your journey through K-pop, your experiences, because it'd be really interesting to see how it was received. And yeah, if you like what we're doing, if you like more of these talks, let us know. Please like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell. Follow us on Discord, follow us on Twitter. And yeah. Bye. Unless I'm missing something.
Nope.
Peace.